Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I appreciate all of you being here through lunch. So we'll try and do two things. A, make it worth your while, and try and keep this brief. In the interest of time, maybe we can just skip the introductions and go straight into just a little bit of context setting. When I was preparing for this session, I was just thinking we just finished Pujo. My husband's family is from Calcutta. And, photographs of giant pandals honoring Goddess Durga in the same city where, as we all know, sort of the grim reality of a brutal murder, rape and murder of a healthcare professional. And it made me think about how it's so reminiscent of gender in India. Deeply ironic, very mixed, and 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or shall we say 1 step forward, 2 steps back. I'm looking forward to talking to our panelists who've all worked in the field for a lot to just understand a little bit about, 3 things: tech, talent, and troubles. So how can we wrap our heads around what technology means in this day and age in the context of women? What are we doing to encourage and ensure women's talent is seen, recognized, and allowed to blossom? Where are we still? What are the stumbling blocks that continue to plague us? So let's maybe start to talk a little bit with technology. We're sort of marching through the 4th industrial revolution. Researchers say that over 50% of the jobs for 2030 have not even been invented yet. What does it mean in a country like India where not everybody even has devices yet? So I'm going to actually address the first question to you, Safala. Digital technology, is it a barrier or is it a driver of social impact? And what are the things that you've been doing to ensure that women get on the bandwagon?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Gauri, and really happy to be here with wonderful panelists here. We've had nice discussions in the boardroom, and a very, very important part of changing India, digital transformation, and how it marries into the social sector. So Metropolis Foundation is the CSR arm of Metropolis Healthcare Laboratories, which is basically a nationwide pathology lab chain. And one of our focuses, we have several programs, but one of the focuses is on adolescent reproductive sexual health. And for tech, we have created an app, which is a free download. It's available in 5 languages: Hindi, English, Marathi, Tamil, and Gujarati. The good things about this was that it really helped us in the lockdown. So when a lot of CSR work could not be done, we had to have meetings to change our protocols to complete work that year because outreach could not happen physically. Through digital tech, we were able to still reach out to the adolescent beneficiaries. So the app addresses issues that they largely want to ask, and a unique feature is ask the expert a question. And just to tell you how it's evolving, last year, the people who are creating the app, mind you, are sitting in the tech side. They are like board people. So they're not really grassroots level users. And we realized that in rural Maharashtra, they struggled with even sending questions. They couldn't type on a smartphone. So from the field, we got the thing that, can you give us an audio, button? And we incorporated that. That's the good part. Like, we could do a lot with it, a spread of awareness, because we want to give accurate information. Flip side is that even though surveys like the Nielsen survey in 2013 said 50% of 40 million users in India are youth, right? But at the grassroots level, we face issues. Girls are not given smartphones. They think they will talk to their boyfriends, we could not relay a lot of work through individual phones, so we had to do web applications. So the partners and we collaborated with could show it in a more communal way, the information. So there are pluses and minuses, but it's something that we cannot shy from because it is evolving. And I think it's, of course, we talk about how it empowers her, and I think it starts at an adolescent stage where, you know, you make so many decisions which add to your values and the healthy choices you make as adults. So tech definitely helps us spread that awareness. I hope that covers a bit.
No, thank you for that. And it's interesting what you were saying about young girls not being allowed mobile phones. And it's true that the internet in some ways sort of has been a double-edged sword, right? On one hand, there's an increase in hate, sort of online hate and trolling for women, particularly women who speak out. And at the same time, you know, movements like the Me Too movement really were spread through access and the internet. So I actually want to direct this next question to you, Raju, in terms of financial inclusion, particularly with all our lives moving online and our money moving online, and money increasingly becoming an abstraction as opposed to things we hold in our hand and in our purses. What has your experience been on the ground with Indigo's work with technology?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. So, I'm Raju Sharma, and as part of Indigo's program, we work exponentially with rural women in the villages where we are working with over 100,000 women and enhancing the income through agricultural and non-agricultural process. In this entire process, what we have experienced is that there is a lot of, digital um, money usage that is happening. You know, there is a lot of digital transactions that has started happening in the villages. But what we have also noticed is that it is more of an individual level. So for example, the Paytms and the UPIs and everything has started happening with such an, more than 50% of the villages in India have now internet. Almost 70% have a smartphone. So the trend that one is noticing even in our, in the villages where we are working is that the usage of these payment gateways have started. But what is the challenge that we are facing is that if you have to bring them as a group entity, if you have to mobilize the community, to use the digital market, the digital literacy is something that there is a lot of scope for us to improve. You know, so still there are cases where there are many villagers and many of our village women who do not know how to use this technology. So that dichotomy is something which one is looking at in the villages. But what has been very good is that with the women's group that we have formed, we have started the digital transformation. We have started financial literacy of them. So the movement has started in the last 2 to 3 years. So that's has been experience for us.
Thank you for sharing that, Raju. And you know, sort of, when you talk about dichotomy, it's sort of, in some ways, the binary and dichotomy are my favorite terms when it comes to gender because it really feels like we're living in the spaces in between. And I do think we're now increasingly making accessible sort of the world for women as consumers, right? I mean, particularly in urban India, we are absolutely ready to sell them things. And I'm curious about what we need to do and why it's really important in terms of ensuring that there is gender inclusivity at all stages of the supply chain. And I was curious about your experience in ensuring a gender-responsive supply chain.
Yeah, am I audible over the mic? Yeah. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. So thanks, Gauri, for the question, and thanks for this session too, because I think this topic is very, very close to my heart in general, being a woman in India, especially brought up in North India. So yeah, I'm happy to be here, and this particular question of supply chain, if I have to share my experience, particularly because my master's is in supply chain, and then overall my experience with Asian Paints, then L'Oreal, now with PI, all are manufacturing only. So I'm fortunate to have a view on how communities, and I'll be very particular about the supply chain with respect to a manufacturing and the communities around it, and you can draw parallels with others. So what I have seen, Gauri, both the good sides and the bad sides, that I think that there are a lot of things which are improving. So to mention, I'll start with the communities around the manufacturing locations. Earlier, it would be one big giant factory, and there'll be huge inequality around the area, and the communities would all be like, okay, this particular factory is taking my water, this particular factory is taking my natural resources, and there's nothing in return that they're getting. Versus now, the same members around are very much supporting these corporates because their lives are changing because of these factories being there. Why? Because we are becoming more inclusive for these supply chains. Is there a distance to go, a long distance to go? And especially when it comes to gender, I think still a much larger distance to go because men can get employed in these factories. But are these factories women inclusive? Are these shop floors women inclusive? The kind of work which is to be done in these factories, how women are looked at. I mean, how many, if today we only have to recruit, how many women would we recruit in a factory versus men? Naturally would be recruit men. नीचे का काम है, shop floor का काम है, physical काम है. So then women are naturally left out. Are we even trying them out? How safe are we making the workplace for them? Okay. Then now let's try and go in their community and see what's happening there. Mostly the communities are agrarian. India largely is agrarian. So, okay, men are farmers, and we know that this income is seasonal. When it comes to the income of communities, it's seasonal. Are we empowering women enough in those communities to fill in those gaps of seasonality? Because if we have women also working, say even if she's working in very small capacity in some dairy or running her own small shop of snacks or working with some SSGs and making some packets, whatever way we can empower them in those communities, at least this gap of seasonal income will go away. She'll be more empowered, more confident to look after the kids. And God forbid if something happens to the male member, the family wouldn't just be crumbled. She'll be there. So again, I would say that now corporates and even there's a lot of work which grassroots are doing for understanding this need of empowering women, but still there's a lot of gap that remains. So I've already touched based on the community part, now on the shop floor, coming to women now in the workplace. Somewhere I'm also representative of that. From the look of it, I think we would be thinking that, okay, we women are very empowered, we have everything. But no, I mean, there's a lot of requirement that still exist to make the workplace very inclusive for women all across, especially for women with children. I don't think that, and I'm representing all the workplaces. I'm not talking for myself alone. That how inclusive are the workplaces for women with children? How many women are coming back to work? Even when they're coming back to work after childbirth, how many of them are taking roles which are challenging? It's not because that their ambition is less after childbearing, no. The point is that we do not give them enough flexibility and options to continue both the sides. And even when it comes to family support and societal support, the minute a woman becomes a mother, she's expected to be nothing less than God and have it all and do it all. So again, a lot of efforts are happening, policies are becoming more gender inclusive, we are having more flexible working hours, some good travel policies, but long way to go there too. And apart from that, a lot of other angles also of women at workplace which I'm not touching base on because we all know it somewhere at the same time because of the paucity of time and for other speakers. So yes, I think there's a lot of things happening, but at the same time, a long distance to cover. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for that. Thank you for sort of sharing candidly because it lets us segue beautifully into our next question. And I also truly feel that, the personal is political. And the more we can recognize that the work that we're doing on the ground and the impact it has on our own selves and our own lives, the more opportunity we have to truly sort of, make an impact. So kind of, speaking of long way to go, as of 2024, about 18%, just over 18% of women serve in senior leadership positions. So when you talk about a long way to go, that definitely, it begs the question, this kind of funnel of women setting out, you're making efforts in the recruitment of women, but are you doing enough? And across sectors, across institutions, are we doing enough to ensure that women really are spotted and the leaking funnel is stopped? So My next question is for Sanchita and you, Kanta, in terms of what do we need to do to ensure and encourage women's leadership? What role do you think networking plays in that? Or, all of us here, I feel like this panel is maybe not as representative of the reality on the ground. And one often hears, women are over-mentored and under-sponsored. And I was hoping you could shed light on what that means and what we need to do. Can we start with you, sir?
Thank you, Gauri, for the question. Firstly, I'm very grateful and honored to be present here on this forum with all the learned members in the audience and in the panel. A little bit about myself. My name is Sanchita, and I'm the company secretary and CSR lead for Baker Hughes. Baker Hughes is an energy technology company which spans across 120 countries across the world. And we majorly deal with technologies, the green evolution that the energy industry is bringing in terms of technology. Coming to the question that Gauri posed on leadership in women, I think all of us sitting here have a very subjective definition of what leadership is to each one of us. And all of us here in this room are leaders in themselves. Talking about specifically women, I think, in fact, all of us are leading at our homes, aren't we? We are doing what we can do. We are raising children. We are handling a home all by ourselves. Isn't that leadership? So that's in itself calls that we don't need to have big titles or be at these panels to be leaders. We are leaders in ourselves. It's all that we recognize what ourselves is and empower them. Why are we only talking about leadership in women? Men are equal leaders in themselves. It's just that women do not reach up until that position in the organization where we call them leaders. And as the stats quoted by Gauri, that only 19% of the women reach until that level. That's very sad to hear because most of us drop out because of social, societal pressures of handling a home and balancing between work life, and it becomes a struggle for us. So leadership is very critical for us, not only at home but in the organization as well. And we as corporates and we as organization need to think how can we support women not to drop their careers after having a child or not to succumb to the pressure of society, etc. And the norms, the community that we build in our organization holds all the more important. I'm very proud to tell that Baker Hughes is an organization which has been very supportive towards women. We have employee resource groups and Women's Network is one of them where we talk about these issues very openly and ensure that every woman in the organization gets supported. Not only this, we have a return to work program which is quite active, and we only hire women who want to come back to the industry and serve. I'm very glad to tell you that, this societal pressure, it's very ground-rooted. At a very adolescent age, children are taught to, focus on, household chores or maybe other things. And specifically, when we are talking about an educated society, what we have seen is children are not, especially girl children, are not very encouraged to take STEM as a career. So Baker Hughes has one such program called Girl Gets Set, wherein we, our employees' children or maybe underprivileged children also, we promote having STEM as a career for girl children. And that's where they are very, very passionate about it. What we have seen in terms of ground realities, they're very, very passionate about taking STEM as a career, but they tend to drop out because they don't get enough guidance and support. So our engineers, our employees only guide them, ensure that they are aware about the various career options that they have in terms of STEM and otherwise also. So I encourage everybody sitting here to think on those lines, encourage more children, not only girls, but also boys, to dream for bigger career options and, achieve what they want to do in life. So that's it.
Thank you for sharing that. And I'm actually wondering if Kanta has maybe wants to share with us the other side of that coin.
Yes, thank you, Gauri, and good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for choosing to be here. You had a choice to go back and have lunch, and you still decided to stay put. So thank you for that. You asked Gauri if we are doing enough. No, we are not. Going by the people standing outside in this session, we aren't doing enough. Only a couple of us are here in the room, and that's why I said thank you for being here. As a country, we are, okay, it depends on where you want to start the story from. Every time we talk about women and say, do you know where your mother was and where you have come? So yes, we have come a long way. The country has done enough. And I have hundreds of things to boast about and say India is doing great in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have women in every sector today, starting from flying aircrafts and fighter aircrafts to doing everything else. We are there now. So there's no barrier in terms of career choices. So great thing to me. We have about 60% of the total elected women representatives at the local level around the world. So of the 100% around the globe, 60% are in India. Great story to tell. We have SSGs, we have women driving the health, driving education, driving many other sectors. Other than in manufacturing, and manufacturing only in auto sector and those sectors, I think everywhere else, I think women are doing great. Yet, there's something which is really, we aren't there at all actually. I'll just go by the investment that goes into women. Of the national budget, about 6% of the total budget goes for women-specific programs. CSR, and some of you will be shocked, of the 28,000 crores or 29,000 crores, I may be wrong there, because many companies will say we spend this much. About 1.5% goes to women. When it comes to sessions, we have one session of the 3 days or 2 days. We don't have representative panels. We don't have enough women to speak about women and their issues. So there's a lot that needs to happen, and I'll also highlight some of the gaps that probably some of the CSR companies can start looking at. Violence against women. That is one of the most critical, most structural barrier that women face, because of which all other rights of women are also compromised. They are not able to go to school, they drop out of school when they reach a certain age, because they are not safe. They are not able to complete their college education, public spaces, private spaces, online spaces. I haven't met a woman in my life, I'm 60, and I haven't met a woman who has said that she never faced any kinds of violence. It is that rampant, and surprisingly, it doesn't bother anyone. I haven't seen many men getting up and say, and I know there are many good men, but where are they when it comes to women around them? Why don't they speak up? And as I'm saying, it is a national crisis, because it also has an economic cost. Violence has an economic cost, because women are not able to realize their full potential. As a result, companies and employers don't get 100% talent pool. They're choosing from 50% of the talent pool. How can a country which is looking at 10 trillion or 20 trillion or competing with other developed nations can think of being there without 50% population being part of that? We are 18%, during COVID we were 18%, and now I think we are increasing, but some of that is because we have started including agriculture workers as the workforce. All women are working, I'm not saying women are not working. How do we make them part of the formal system where they are also enjoying some social security? So that's another problem. Third is representation and leadership that Gauri you were talking about, and I'm going to stop here. Just look at the figures. After 75 years of being independent and having the most progressive legislations and constitution in the world, we are still not there. We are talking about 14% women in parliament, and the numbers keep going down. There are many state assemblies where there is not even a single woman MLA. Otherwise, average number is 9%, 14% women, judiciary, senior executives, you name it, and there are issues. So unless you have women representing themselves, their issues will never be highlighted. And that's what companies should be investing in. Not doing the same thing of education, 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 but education with a purpose, education for being inclusive, education for bringing leadership that really matters to the country. And I think we need to focus more on having the full potential of women in their all their glory, I would say, because they have a lot to contribute, and that's what we are not harnessing enough. I'll stop here, Gauri. Sorry if I was being very forceful.
Thank you, Kanta. No, and thank you for being forceful. I think you.
I want to add something.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just to add to what Kanta shared, and I have examples to quote from there. So all three companies, the past three, Asian Paints, L'Oreal, and now with PI, I've been involved in CSR. Now I'm leading CSR. When it comes to okay, it's just 1%, 1.5%, the number that Kanta mentioned. It's already very little. But the situation is so dire that even that 1.5%, we don't get the outcomes. Why? Because of the mindset that we are living in. I have struggled to make my program successful because when we are designing the program, sitting at the corporate side, we think, wow, what an outcome would come. I'm going to skill the children. They will get certain jobs outside. We do amazing boardroom meetings to design programs. But okay, I have to quote one example. I'll quote one example of the skilling program that we've done as part of my previous corporate, wherein we had this beautiful design program for 6 months. We will teach you computers, basic English, basic mathematics, so that at least these children can go out and do the work of certain counter work, certain salesperson work. They have enough, some 10 to 12K of money per month they can get. That was the design part of it. We did the entire program. Those 6 months, if I have to share the numbers, which I don't remember very, very correctly, but more or less with percentage, the boys, they stayed throughout the 6 months. At least they completed the program, except for the ones who dropped out from the beginning itself. They were not serious enough. But most of the boys, they completed the program. Girls, they also completed the program. In fact, the performance of girls in those classrooms was better because they were more serious in the classrooms. They were more attentive in the classrooms. But when it came to placement, all the boys were willing to go out and take those placements of salespeople or hotel management or whatever we were trying to place them in the nearby bigger city, wherever the community was. Girls were not ready. And more than girls, it was their parents who weren't ready. And parents, the reasons that they cited, somewhere we were also agreeing to it because the society is not conducive for women. There's so many issues. I mean, if you talk about safety, women are not safe. If you talk about workplace inclusivity, there's not enough inclusivity which we provide for women. And when at this level we don't feel inclusive enough and safe enough, imagine those little girls, 15-year-old, 16-year-old, 18-year-old, when they have to step out with very little money, alone. Like even the thought of it feels very shaky. So I just resonate with Kanta. We are doing very little, and I don't know when we will reach a state where we will feel very good about the way we are in this country for women. Yeah.
Just quickly add some good stories to this. Yeah, there is a dire need to pay attention to what's happening with the adolescent girls. But, and you know, in CSR, we talk about sustainability, and we look for partners, like corporates look for partners which have strong sustainability agendas, right? So some things that have evolved for us and have worked is creating Kishori munches or peer groups, just 15, 20 girls in villages, and they are the voice. And you see that leadership there, it starts young. Then they can be advocates in adulthood. So they've been able to bring the panchayat to notice that the school does not have sanitation, that the colleges or the higher education we want to pursue, but our parents want us to get married early. So they're voicing this. So, you know, it's important to get some platforms to help them facilitate. So today's children, and this is in everyone's home, you know, they listen to other kids. They don't listen to their parent. They don't listen to the teacher. So peers have helped us, you know, when we focused and making them the agents of change.
Thank you, all three of you. And I know we're out of time. I wanted to sort of pick one thing that Kanta said, which really resonates in terms of all women are working women. And I sort of, I got goosebumps when I said that, when she said that, because I thought, yes, some of us get paid for some of the work that we do. But there's a lot of work that all women do that's not even recognized as work, right? That there's care work, there's reproductive labor, there's all kinds of labor that isn't yet sort of, it's still invisible. And the other thing that sort of really stayed with me was the idea of funding. And I think, you're right to put us as CSR on the spot in terms of why are women's programs funded so little? What is it about the funding that can be problematic sometimes in terms of, are we funding enough gender-based violence program? Are we funding enough for POSH? So I'm actually directing the next question to you, Raju. We have a couple of minutes. Could you tell us, in your years sort of funding CSR, what are the things you look for? What can our audience take away from how to sort of make a winning pitch to ensure that funding flows easier?
Yeah, due to paucity, this is a very extensive topic. I mean, it can go on for 45 minutes or even more, but just briefly, I can talk about it. One thing just wanted to identify and share with you that women empowerment as a theme or equity as a theme is a very, very strong component for Indigo. And we work extensively, as I said earlier, on women empowerment, gender rights, and all of that. So there are 4 or 5 key points that I want to share with you that what we look for when we look for proposals. First thing is sustainability. And I don't think any project in this world is sustainable. And I've always quoted this. What I believe is the process is sustainable. And I think we look out for very strong processes that are created in the villages, in the field, which needs to be sustained even after the project's exit. Project will always have a deadline, but process can't have a deadline. I believe sustainability is something that we always look for. Number 2 is what's the impact that's created. Our project proposals, our concept notes need to have, see, it's very simple. I don't want very complicated rocket technology. What is the problem we are trying to solve? What's the problem? What's the solution? What's the impact? And how is it being done? I think these are 4 or 5 components that is required for any corporates to evaluate. And of course, how much money is required for that. And then whether the program has scalability indicators, whether that program will create islands of excellence or it can be implemented across India, because India is, as you know, is all about numbers. There is no fun in creating only islands of excellence here and there. And I think one component is how are we communicating about the programs? What communication channels will the program have? And when I'm saying communication, it's not tom-tomming about the project, but how would we raise the issues at regular interval? And the MIS systems, how will we measure the MIS? I think these are 4 or 5 key components that normally, at least I as a person from Indigo's management would look at. And that's something which I think. So when we receive proposals, I receive rims of paper. Frankly, nobody has time to go through all the proposals. It will have latitude, longitude. This village is situated at 40-degree north latitude in this district, in that. What will I do with the latitude? I am Indigo, but I don't fly airplanes. I need specific things. What is the problem you are trying to solve? क्या करना चाह रहे हो आप? होगा क्या उससे? Simple baat. And I'm telling you, we don't understand. I have been into the development sector for 25 odd years now. I was saying 100 years, but no, honestly it's 25 years. But even then I don't understand jargons, and I don't like to understand jargons. एकदम sustainable development कर देंगे, SDGs के साथ link कर देंगे. There will be qualitative change in the life of women, and there will be qualitative life of this thing. Everything is happening. Everything under the sun will happen in that proposal. ऐसा लगेगा इंडिया का सारा problem उस proposal के कारण मैं खत्म कर दूंगा. I swear it's not going to happen, my friends. It's not going to happen. आप simple एक चीज बताएं, यार आप क्या करना चाह रहे हो? What is it that you want to do? How will you do it? What's the impact? What's the problem you're trying to solve? As simple as that. Give me very simple concept note first. Don't honestly, quote unquote, bore me with such a big this thing. I don't have the time, and nobody, you will not have the time. यार आप कितने पढ़े होगे? And please do not submit proposals which you yourself have not studied, you have not have understood. ऐसे proposals मैंने पढ़े हैं, उनको ही नहीं पता कि यार करना क्या है उसमें. When I ask them क्या कैसे है, ये कर लेंगे हम आपको, कैसे करोगे? उसके बारे में सोचना पड़ेगा. यार, come on, how is that possible? You know what? I think sessions like these should be more of a learning from each other. I think we need to learn from the corporate, from the NGO fraternity. The NGO fraternity, civil society, academia needs to learn from the corporate, and it's a learning process. हमें बहुत, each time I go to the village, and I go very often, and I don't go for ministerial visits. It's not like 1 day, 2 day, वो नहीं होता है. We go, उसमें गहराई से जाना पड़ता है, और उस चीज़ को हम लोग समझें और clarity के साथ लिखें. I think that's a good proposal. I don't think I have a format for it, but something which जो दिल को छूती है ना, वही अच्छा proposal है. I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you, Raju. हमारे दिल को भी छू गई आपकी बातें. Thank you very much for that. I see that questions are already forming, so maybe we'll just wrap up here. Thank you so much, everyone. I think maybe the one takeaway I would say, based on what everybody's saying, is not so much gender as separate programs, but gender as a lens through all of your programs may be the way forward. Thank you.
Thank you.